Welcome to the Stoic Responder Podcast. I'm your host, Christopher Healy. As a special agent who spent more than 15 years conducting large-scale fraud, money laundering, and public corruption investigations, Stoic philosophy provided a mindset edge that became the foundation of my professional success. My mission today is to share those same ancient mindset lessons with you so that you can turn obstacles into opportunities and adversity into advantage. Time to muster up. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Stoic Responder Podcast. I use an app called Riverside to record this podcast, and they made some changes to the app, and it's not that it's driving me nuts. It's not like it's bad or anything. It's just that it's different. And when you get used to something and then you get forced to change, it feels super awkward sometimes. And I feel super awkward right now, just trying to figure out the new kind of layout. I just gotten so accustomed to doing things a certain way, and all of a sudden I'm being forced to learn on the fly. But that kind of speaks to the podcast that we had, I believe, the first day of the week on, well, what would be the Wednesday podcast this week. Normally Tuesday, but the Wednesday podcast this week, where we talk about getting 1% better, 10% better in the skill that you already know versus having so much more room for improvement in that skill that you don't know. So I'm trying to lean into that and try to take some of my own Stoic advice and master a new skill and learn this app a little bit better so I can get these episodes out to you sounding even better and with greater clarity. So moving into today's show, folks, this is episode 76. Thank you for joining me. And this one is titled A Shared Humanity. Before we get started, let me address two of my favorite organizations. Number one is the Overwatch Collective, the 501c3 that supports law enforcement community and provides funding for therapy sessions and supporting mental health initiatives for our first responders, our veterans, and their families. Guys, please check out the overwatchcollective.com and support this great organization that is doing so much for the people who are doing so much for us. And while you're over there, you can pick up some of their sweet merch. I don't have any of it on right now, but they have everything from merchandise, sweatshirts, and t-shirts to hats to coffee cups. And if you happen to get one of those coffee cups, head on over to bluebadgecoffee.com so you can get some coffee to fill it up with, because Blue Badge Coffee Company has another mission that supports our law enforcement community. They are bringing the absolute best, highest quality premium coffee that your money can buy directly to you. And then they're taking a portion of each sale and donating it to law enforcement agencies around our great nation to assist them in funding or maintaining peer support and wellness programs for their officers. These programs are some of the first things that get cut when defund the police initiatives go through. And so companies like Blue Badge Coffee Company supporting officers by providing funding to keep those peer support and wellness programs going is a major, it's of major importance to guys like me who did that job for a lot of years and know how impactful those programs can be. So check them out at bluebadgecoffee.com. And guys, I say this a fair amount. The Stoics were all about action, not words. And because what I do for a living is words, I feel compelled to bring some action into my life wherever I can. This is one of those things that I like to do, is support organizations that support the law enforcement community. I don't charge for advertising. So if you've got an organization, if you've got a company, if you've got a 501c3 that is out there helping to support the law enforcement community, please reach out to me. I want to hear about it so that I can support your mission as well and give a little bit back to that community. All right, folks, jumping in. As I said, this episode is number 76. It's titled A Shared Humanity. I'm going to start you out with a Marcus Aurelius quote that I think speaks to that title. It goes like this: what is divine deserves our respect because it is good. What is human deserves our attention because it is like us. And let me reread that because I think I screwed it up. He actually says, what is human deserves our affection because it is like us. Deserves our affection because it is like us. All right, so regardless of your specific religious belief, I don't talk a lot about my faith on the podcast. This is a podcast that is kind of secular in nature because this is about philosophy, not theology. But for those that are curious, I'm a Christian. I was raised in a couple of different faith traditions. My dad was Catholic, my mom was Baptist. So I was baptized into the Catholic Church as an infant. And then as I got older in life, I moved in the direction of my mom's faith. And as an adult, I've attended the Southern Baptist Church and was baptized again in that faith tradition as an adult. And so I appreciate and love the tradition of the Catholic Church. I've spent some time in an Episcopal church. I've spent a lot of time in a Southern Baptist congregation. And that's my faith tradition. I'm a Christian. I'm unapologetic about it. I am sending my oldest of my two daughters to a faith-based school. We adopted our children through faith-based networks. And but at the same time, I have tremendous respect and support for people of different faith traditions who are deeply dedicated to the principles of their faith. I have Jewish friends. I have friends who are Muslim. I have friends from India who celebrate religions that I don't know anything about at all. I don't know much about the Sikh tradition. I don't know much about the Hindu tradition. But I do know that regardless of your specific religious belief, the divine is generally characterized by inherent goodness and perfection. So whether you're a Christian like me, or a Jew, or a Muslim, a Sikh, or any of the other varied religions that are out there, major and minor, we typically all see the divine as generally the standard of inherent goodness and perfection, right? Whether it's an Abrahamic religion or another religion, we look at the divine as the standard that we should live up to. It represents the highest ideals of virtue, of wisdom, and transcendence. And it serves as a guiding light for humanity to aspire towards, and it commands our respect and our admiration, right? That's generally what we think of when we hear the term divine. So that's what Marcus is saying. What is divine deserves our respect because it is good. Now, Marcus was not a Christian. He existed in the 2nd century. The Christians were being persecuted by the Romans at that time. And there's some mixed scholarship out there about whether Marcus himself oversaw any of that persecution of Christians in the Roman Empire, or if it was really just something that was happening in the outposts of the Roman Empire and not at the direction of the emperor himself. There is some scholarship that suggests that Marcus Aurelius was not necessarily a fan of Christians, but that he showed compassion to them. And a lot of that was based on the Stoic tradition that he tried to live up to. The ideal he tried to live up to was to live and let live. And that's somewhat what he's saying here. He's saying what is divine deserves our respect because it is good, whatever your faith tradition is. And the Romans certainly had their own faith tradition that is far different from what I believe. But what is human deserves our affection because it is like us. And so he's saying that whatever it is that you believe in from a faith tradition, that is good. But I will have affection for you because you are like me, because you are struggling through this life the same as I am. I may be the emperor of Rome. You may be a commoner. You may be a water bearer, a mule driver, a soldier in the legion. But I have a shared humanity with you because you are like me. And that's what he's saying. He's saying the human experience, with all its flaws, all its imperfections and complexities, deserves our affection. It deserves our compassion. Despite our differences, despite our shortcomings, we are bound together by that shared humanity with all its joys, its sorrows, its triumphs, and its struggles. In fact, he says at one point in Meditations, and I reference this in the book, In Valor, he talks about what is good for the hive, what is good for the bee is good for the hive. In other words, what is good for one can be good for all. We have a shared humanity. We're all on this earth together. There's, 4 billion years of this earth, right, that have been around, and we exist, you and me and everyone around you exists in this tiny blink of an eye on this earth at the same time. What a miracle it is that we're here together in this moment. That means that we have a shared humanity. We need to have compassion for one another. Despite our differences, despite our different beliefs in what is divine and what is not, we have a shared humanity with one another. So while the divine can inspire awe and reverence, and it should, it's our shared human experience that elicits empathy, that elicits understanding, that should elicit affection. And it's only by recognizing and striving for that ideal. It's only by recognizing and trying to live up to that divine while respecting our shared humanity of our fellow people, traveling through this journey together, that we can live lives of true virtue, of compassion and understanding. And that is what Marcus is telling us. Live up to your highest ideal, but do not forget that those who share this space with you are deserving of your compassion just as much as the divine is deserving of your respect and deserving of your faith. And I don't know about you, if you're listening to this and what your faith tradition is, but mine teaches something very similar. It teaches that we have a shared humanity, that we should care for others. That is why some of the first responders that you see out there in North Carolina, in Georgia, in Tennessee, in Florida, in Virginia, and all these places that were impacted by Hurricane Helene are groups like Samaritan's Purse, some of the first on the scene. They're on the scene before even the federal government, before FEMA is there. The American Red Cross, the Salvation Army, some of these faith-based organizations are out there providing service to people regardless of their faith tradition because of their shared humanity. I want you to think about that when we think about things that are happening in the world today, when we think about the hatred between groups, when we think about the difference between, the people who are fighting it out in the Middle East, and one side wants to be left the hell alone and the other side wants to eliminate them. One side wants to, take this land. The other side wants to take this land. When we're seeing these sorts of things, what we're really seeing is people who have forgotten each other's shared humanity. They have forgotten that one another, despite their differences in a belief system, despite their differences in a faith tradition, operate with a shared humanity. And it's even more upsetting and unsettling for me, knowing that these are all Abrahamic religions, right? That we all come from the same base religious tradition, the same monotheistic religious tradition. All three of the major Abrahamic religions all have the same sort of founding fathers, if it were, when you go back in that faith tradition. So it's more disturbing to me, even so, seeing people of that same sort of Abrahamic coaching tree fight it out. But we see this in, areas of the country right now that are hard hit by a massive hurricane. We're seeing people who have no connection to those areas step up and provide because of the shared humanity and because that is what the divine inspires them to do. And so I want you to think about that today. Think about that no matter what your tradition is, what your faith tradition is, what you believe in, what your politics are, what part of the country you're from, what SEC school you happen to be supporting at any given time, there are people in this country who need your help right now. And there are organizations on the ground that are serving them, good organizations. And if you need some names, if you need some contact information for those organizations, I'm going to put it in the show notes. You can DM me personally. I will let you know who my friends on the ground in these places are telling me you should be supporting. So, folks, as I said, we've got a bit of a theme this week. We are thinking about all the things that are going on in the world, and we're trying to take the Stoic approach to what is happening in the world and how we should view these things. And I would ask you, no matter what your views are on the various wars around the world, the disasters happening, the political moment and the heated rhetoric that we find ourselves in, to look at your fellow man this week and see some of that shared humanity, to recognize that what is good for the bee is what is good for the hive, to recognize that through some miracle, no matter what your faith tradition is, through some miracle, we all find ourselves traveling through space on this rock at the same time, and that each and every one of us has the opportunity to show some kindness, to show some affection, to show some goodness to one another in that shared humanity. And believe me, no matter what it is you believe in or what God you pray to, I guarantee you, when you treat your fellow man with compassion, with affection, with humanity, it's going to please the divine. That's what I got for you this week, this day, folks. Let me leave you with a journal prompt and then send you on your way. Ask yourself, write it down. Am I so different from those who I disdain? Am I so different from the people that I disdain? If I'm finding myself on one side of this imaginary line in the sand between what I believe and what they believe, between my jersey color and theirs, between my faith tradition and theirs, between my country and theirs, let's look for some shared humanity. Let's ask ourselves, am I really so different? All right, folks. If you're enjoying this podcast, I truly appreciate it. Thank you for listening. A couple ways that you can support it. Number one, buy a copy of my book, In Valor 365 Stoic Meditations for First Responders. Links are in the show notes, or you can find it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Walmart, anywhere you get your books. It's available in Kindle and Nook for instant download right now. You can get paperback edition as well on Amazon Prime. You can also reach out to me directly. I'll send you a signed copy if that's something you would be interested in having for your collection. I'm not famous yet, but maybe someday I will be. It's a great resource if you want to practice this philosophy daily. It's going to give you some quotes, some contextualization. They're directly relatable to your modern life. It's also going to give you some of these daily journal prompts and action items to help you integrate these lessons. Number two, you can subscribe to the Substack, the Stoic Responder.substack.com. Completely free. You'll get these episodes delivered directly to your email inbox, as well as our newsletter once, sometimes twice a week. You're going to get all of that for free. It's going to have some leadership lessons in that newsletter. It's going to have some Stoic lessons, personal development tips, all that good stuff. I don't spam you. I don't try to sell you anything. I just send you the best Stoic wisdom that I can come up with 4 to 5 times a week. And finally, the best thing that you can do to support me and support this podcast is to like, share, and subscribe so that others can learn what we're doing here and avail themselves of this ancient wisdom. Folks, thanks so much. I got one more episode for you tomorrow. Until that, you are how to roll. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to subscribe, like, rate, and share this podcast so that we can spread the benefits of Stoicism to other first responders. It will only take you a few moments, but it can help us tremendously. Until next time, how to roll.